Power to the truth. I do not say all power to the people. That would be a mistake. We have to see that there is the power of nature, even though the people are a part of nature. That term, all power to the people, came from the Black Panther Party. So, we need to look at stuff in historical context. Circumstances change in time and space. So we can't just get fixated on a certain era or time in history without seeing it in context. I believe that as a species, as an endangered species, that we need to develop from being mere mortal human beings to becoming more and more compassionate, humane beings. This is more than just a E at the end of human. To be a humane being is to have care, concern, and compassion, for those who suffer in the misery of poverty. As we, just learn to let go and go with the flow. And when we open our eyes, we see that we live in the web of life. It's a web that is interconnected. It is kind of a matrix, where one doorway or one link can lead to another. One portal can lead to other openings. Especially in terms of our consciousness. Now we have internet power, which should help to increase global consciousness more and more. At the same time, understanding that many do not have internet connection, so we can't assume that what we may be exposed to online, that your ordinary man in the street is aware of it. So, in a way, the internet has created kind of like a separate caste, C-A-S-T-E, as a separate sector of the people, that we didn't have, years back. So we need to see that it is still important to think in terms of the basics. As I repeat myself over and over again, food, clothing, shelter, medical care, quality education, 5 basic needs. Like Fanon talked about in Wretched of the Earth, what do the people really need? What do the people want? And Fanon mentioned, land and bread. This may seem unsophisticated to the Marxist-Leninist theorists, yet in the long run we will see that it is very practical. Right now, we're at the stage where we need to have the courage to engage in constructive criticism and creative self-criticism. I speak here in the context of the struggle for humane liberation. So remember that certain ideals are a subject can make sense in one context, yet if we take it out of that context, it becomes nonsense. I've always been interested in creating and building up and developing a political party. You know, back in the mid-70s, you know, I was thinking in terms of like a Brown Liberation Party. You know, we saw the tragedy that happened to the Black Panther Party, and as I developed more, I saw that, you know, I myself couldn't be constricted to like a color, like Brown Party or Green Party. You know, that we need to have a basic party that, you know, masses can relate to, not just a particular racial or ethnic group. And with Chicanos, you know, the old Chicano movement, to me it got sidetracked and diffused by the concept of Chicano cultural nationalism. You know, and it was a stage to me. You know, I didn't get stuck in that stage. You know, where back then there was talk of the Chicano nation. You know, Aztlán, Aztlan. I relate to Aztlán in terms of the ancient name for what we know as the U.S. Southwest. Yet I don't speak of trying to create a Chicano nation and that kind of insanity. It is insanity. So we got to look at what a nation is. A true nation must have sovereignty, must have ownership and control over the land and all the institutions thereon. So we look at, say, the USA. You know, there is no democracy, no authentic democracy. We got a facade of bourgeois, a corporate capitalist controlled political system here in the USA. Though we can still use electoral politics as a strategy, it should be part of a larger strategy whose ultimate aim is the seizure of power. You know, we aim to topple the empire. We're not just talking about the government here. At least I'm not. Ancient African proverb, I am we. So we need to go with the flow and let go. Understand that any claim to nationhood right now is illogical and insane. There are no nations under empire. You know, get that into your brain. Therefore, any talk of internationalism among nations is illogical. So as we comprehend connected reality more and more, we need to be able to perceive it clearly, to crystallize that clarity in our consciousness, and to be able to use the power of the word to better and better define it, define connected reality. So right now here in the USA, we are in extreme danger due to the growing powers of corporate fascism. And it is authoritarian. It is not totalitarian. Total fascism, total control is impossible. Yet, it is controlled by control freaks, who are at the pinnacle of the empire. So we're looking at evil people who are in power, in control, and secure, and their fixation is on authority. We start believing that they have total control over all of us. We start getting frozen in fear, and paranoid. Then we're screwed. Because what has happened then is that we are believing the lies that were fed through fascist propaganda. So there can be no totalitarianism. Total is like a complete totality. We're talking about authority here. This might seem trivial, but if you think it in terms of what millions and millions of people are thinking about, a word can make a big difference. Like how the fascist propaganda lie about us having had a recession in 2008. That was another Great Depression. And it might be a recession for you if, say, you lost your job and you don't have your middle class house. But it would be a depression for me if I lost my job and ended up homeless in the streets. So we got to remember, the power of the word, the power of definition. Understanding that power is the dual capacity to, first of all, correctly perceive connected reality and then change it in a projected manner. Change it in a way that we envision. See, so we just can't simply endlessly report about the evils of the empire and not start devising some kind of strategy, some kind of tactics. What are we going to do to combat corporate fascism? We're just gonna bitch till doomsday? So I suggest that we get involved in progressive political parties and envisioning that at the appropriate time, we can, no matter what party that we belong to, we can vote as a collective, vote in solidarity and condemn the Democratic Party, condemn the Republican Party, because it's really one two-headed monster. You know, the illusion of having a real choice when both major political parties are corrupt and controlled by corporate capitalism. That's why most people don't even vote. You know, they don't really see themselves as being active, democratic citizens, or citizens in a democracy, and they're not. You know, we live under an unjust system. You know, there is no democracy in terms of majority rule, and you can call it an oligarchy, plutocracy, and all these words. You know, I just kind of keep it simple and look at it as, you know, it's corporate fascism. See, fascism isn't just the goose-stepping Nazi going down the street. No, fascism, you know, entails, you know, corporate control of the government. So we're not just talking about like the Roman Empire. You know, we're talking about a new kind of empire here, which is really global empire. To call it strictly American wouldn't even be fully accurate. So, just wanted to share a few thoughts tonight, and give me your feedback, and just keep studying. Study, study, study. Power to the truth. I love this.